Welcome to the Men and Women of Valor um, Pentecostal Church located on 347 6th Avenue, Newark, New Jersey, English-speaking Bible study. I am Pastor Dr. Tony Wimbush, and I'm here to continue with our Bible study. So today we will be talking about, we finished off in Exodus. We're going to start from Exodus 22. Remember, we're going through the whole Bible, and we're going through it, and probably by the end of the year we'll be finished, or the end of next year. But we are in Exodus at this present time, and we're talking about the Hebrews leaving Egypt and going through the Red Sea and getting blessed by God so many ways, tremendously, so many ways. And it's amazing how they still complain, and it's like human nature. You get blessed and you still complain. It's not enough. So they constantly are complaining every time God blesses them. I mean, they're watching the miracles. And I know some of us go, oh, I wouldn't have been like that if it was me, but we don't know what we would have done. Never say never, because we don't know what we'll do in any given situation. But anyway, so here they are being brought out of Egypt with spoils. They didn't leave broke. Remember, when God blesses you, he blesses you tremendously. He gives you the best of the best. So they didn't leave poor. God brings them out with spoils. They go through the Red Sea. And every time God was getting ready to do something for them, he would harden the heart of Pharaoh, because he wanted Pharaoh to understand that there was only one true living God. So he would harden Pharaoh's heart, because not only was he saving the Hebrews and bringing them out of bondage and making them realize there was only one true God, he also wanted to save the Pharaoh. And I know that sounds like what? But he would harden the Pharaoh's heart, and it says it in the Bible, because he wanted Pharaoh to know that there was only one true living God, and he was that God. So let's continue. Exodus, I believe it's 10:22. We will continue, and let's continue and read 10:22. And later Moses called Israel to depart from the Red Sea, and they went out to the wilderness of Shur and marched on for 3 days in the wilderness, but they did not find water. In time they came to Marah, but they were not able to drink the water from Marah because it was bitter. That is why he called its name Marah. Marah means bitter, in Hebrew, obviously. And the people began to murmur against Moses, saying, what are we to drink? Then he cried out to Jehovah, and Jehovah's God, we already know that. So Jehovah directed him to a tree, and he threw it into the water, and the water became sweet. So I'm reading the New World Translation of the scripture, Holy Scripture. So the New World Translation. So for those of you who need to follow me out there in social media land. And the people began to murmur, okay, and then the water became sweet. So not only was the water pure, but it was sweet. There he established for them a regulation and a case for judgment, and there he put them to the test. And he went on to say, if you will strictly listen to the voice of Jehovah your God, and will do what is right in his eyes, and will indeed give ear to his commandments, and keep all his regulations, I shall put none of the maladies upon you that I put upon the Egyptians, because I am Jehovah who is healing you. So after they were complaining about the water bitter, what are we going to drink? And God directed Moses to throw in this tree to make the water pure and sweet. So not only did the water become pure, he didn't not only make the water pure for them, but he made it good to taste. God does everything like perfecto. So he says, listen, if you guys will just listen to Jehovah, do what Jehovah says, do not fall into a problem, and just follow what he says. He won't put any maladies on him, the things he did to Egypt. But you have to just follow what he says. Just do what he says. It's like directing children. You tell them, just do what I say. Trust me, it'll be a good thing if you just do what I say. So later they did, okay, and so where am I here? I shall put none of the maladies upon you that I put upon the Egyptians, because I am Jehovah who is healing you. So he's saying that God has told you that he's healing you, that he's taking care of you. He's brought you out of bondage, brought you with spoils, crossed the sea on dry land. I want you guys to remember, a lot of times they don't go into the little far specifics of things that God did for them. But he brought them on dry land. Dry, D-R-Y. So this is a river that he opened up, a riverbed, and it must be a large river. He opened it up because it was able to drown all the Egyptian uh, chariots and warriors, and it was dry. You would think maybe it would be muddy. It was dry. He brought them on dry land. Those little things people shouldn't just pass over. Think about it. Dry land from an ocean bed. Okay? So anyway, after that, they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, so they went camping there by the water. Later they departed from Elim, and the entire assembly of the sons of Israel finally came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after their coming out of the land of Egypt. And the entire assembly of the sons of Israel began to murmur against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the sons of Israel kept saying to them, if only we had died by Jehovah's hand in the land of Egypt while we were sitting by the pots of meat, while we were eating bread to satisfaction, because you have brought us out into this wilderness to put this whole congregation to death by famine. Oh my God. Now they're complaining because they claim they don't have food. Now, they've forgotten the manna from heaven and how God has blessed them with meat that would just show up. And how is it they don't know that God is still going to bless them and give them food? He's not going to leave them out there to starve. What is wrong with these people? Is this a metaphysical or philosophical way of saying that human nature, how human nature is in man? He satisfies something and he still complains. He's blessed and he still complains. Remember, the battle is between the flesh and the spirit. So the battle is between the flesh and the spirit. It's a constant battle. But this is, you read this and you go, what's wrong with these people? So let's continue. Then Jehovah said to Moses, here I am raining down bread for you from the heavens, and people must go out and pick up each his mount day for day, in order that I may put them to the test as to whether they will walk in my law or not. And it must occur on the sixth day that they must prepare what will bring in, and it must prove double that they keep picking up day by day. So Moses and Aaron said to all the sons of Israel, at evening, you will certainly know it is Jehovah who has brought you out from the land of Egypt. And in the morning you will indeed see Jehovah's glory, because he has heard your murmurings against Jehovah. And what are we that you should murmur against us? And Moses continued, it will be when Jehovah gives you in the evening meat to eat, and in the morning bread to satisfaction, because Jehovah has heard your murmurings, that you are murmuring against him. And what are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against Jehovah. So basically Moses is saying, you're murmuring against Jehovah, even though you're murmuring against me and Aaron, you're murmuring against Jehovah. You're complaining to Jehovah. You're complaining about Jehovah. And he's blessed you so much. What is wrong with these people? And Moses went on to say, Aaron, say to the entire assembly of the sons of Israel, come near before Jehovah, because he has heard your murmurings. Then it occurred that as soon as Aaron had spoken to the entire assembly of the sons of Israel, they turned and faced toward the wilderness, and look, Jehovah's glory appeared in the cloud. Wow. Now they've upset God so much that he appeared in the cloud. And Jehovah spoke further to Moses, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the sons of Israel. The murmurings of the sons of Israel. Speak to them, saying, between 2 evenings you will eat meat, and in the morning you will be satisfied with bread. And you will certainly know that I am Jehovah your God. Accordingly, it occurred that in the evening the quails began to come up and cover the camp. And in the morning there had developed a layer of dew round about the camp. And in time the layer of dew evaporated, and here upon the surface of the wilderness there was a fine flaky thing, fine like hoar frost upon the earth. When the sons of Israel got to see it, they began to say to one another, what is it? For they did not know what it was. Hence Moses said to them, it is the bread that Jehovah has given you for food. This is the word that Jehovah has commanded. Pick up some of it, each one in proportion to his eating. You are to take an omer measure for each individual according to the number of the souls that each of you has in his tent. And the sons of Israel began to do so. And they went picking it up, some gathering much, some gathering little. When they would measure it by the omer, he that had gathered much had no surplus, and he that had gathered little had no shortage. They picked it up, each one in proportion to his eating. And Moses said to them, let nobody leave any of it until the morning. But they did not listen to Moses when some men would leave to Moses. When some men would leave some of it until the morning, it would breed worms and stink, so that Moses became indignant at them. And they would pick it up by morning, each one in proportion to the eating. When the sun got hot, it melted. And it came about on the sixth day that they picked up twice as much bread, 2 omer measures for one person. So all the chieftains of the assembly came and reported it to Moses, and that he said to them, it is what Jehovah has spoken. Tomorrow there will be a Sabbath observance of a holy Sabbath to Jehovah. What you can bake, bake, and what you can boil, boil. And all the surplus that there is saved, it up for you as something to be kept until the morning. So they were, God had given them enough for the Sabbath day, so they didn't have to do any work. So on the seventh day, they would just have extra. So they were supposed to pick up more on the sixth day, but they weren't supposed to pick up more of the manna during the regular day of the week. And some of them tried to do that, and when they did, it would turn into worms. You know, wow, hard-headed people. Accordingly, they saved it up until the morning, just as Moses had commanded, and it did not stink, nor did maggots develop in it. Then Moses said, eat it today, because today is the Sabbath. To Jehovah today you will not find it in the field. So the sixth day, 7th day is the Sabbath day. Sixth day they get extra for the next day, so they wouldn't have to work, because that was the Sabbath day in which God blessed for you to rest. So, it's amazing how things work out. And they found out when they followed what God asked them to do, that the manna wouldn't turn into worms and stink, because God had commanded that. When you follow God, not only when you want something, or when you pray for something that you need, or desire something, or when God blesses you, you should follow him regardless. Regardless. Whether he healed you, he has healed you, whether he has blessed you. See, there's blessings I always talk about. People seem to forget the fact that you can wake up in the morning, you can walk, you can brush your teeth, you can see with your eyesight. These are blessings we take for granted. But we should follow God regardless and ask him about everything we need, every direction we're going into. Lord, if this is the direction I need to be going into, then let me know. Lord, if this is the direction, then bless me in it. So you got to ask God. He has to become number one in your life. Number one. And I know that's a hard thing, especially for us fellas who's married and got kids and a family and a wife. But that has to be number one in our life. God has to be number one, and then the wife, and of course the kids, and community, and that's the way it should be. But God should be number one in your life, not only in your life, but in your wife's life. It should be number one. He should be number one, period, point blank. Anyway, nor did maggots develop in it. Then Moses said, eat it today, because today is a Sabbath. To Jehovah today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you will pick it up. That on the 7th day is a Sabbath. On it none will form. However, it came about on the 7th day that some of the people did go out to pick it up, but they found none. How hard-headed are these people? He explained to them what was going to go on. He explained to them how it was going to work. And yet, on the 7th, some people went out to look for it anyway. What? Talk about human nature. Consequently, Jehovah said to Moses, how long must you people refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? Mark the fact that Jehovah has given you the Sabbath. That is why he has given you on the sixth day the bread of 2 days. Keep letting each one in his own place. Let nobody go out from this locality on the seventh day. And the people proceeded to observe the Sabbath on the seventh day. So he had to tell them, listen, what's wrong with you people? That's why you're getting extra on the sixth day, because the Sabbath day is the day I have set aside to rest. And you're going to rest. There's not going to be anything out there. Tell them again that there's going to be nothing out there. Wow. The house of Israel began to call its name manna, and it was white like coriander seed, and its taste was like that of flat cakes with honey. Then Moses said, this is the word that Jehovah has commanded. Fill an omer measure of it as something to be kept throughout your generations, in order that they may see the bread that I made you eat in the wilderness when I was bringing you out of the land of Egypt. So Moses said to Aaron, take a jar and put it in an omer full of manna and deposit it before Jehovah as something to be kept throughout your generations. Just as Jehovah had commanded, Moses and Aaron proceeded to deposit it before the testimony as something to be kept. And the sons of Israel ate the manna 40 years until their coming to a land inhabited. The manna was what they ate until their coming to the frontier of the land of Canaan. Now an omer is a tenth of an ephah measure. 40 years, it says. 40 years they ate this blessed bread, which I'm quite sure, because God had created and blessed it, it made them very, very healthy. But 40 years, they walked in the wilderness before they got to the promised land. Now, some people wonder why 40 years? Why did it take them so long to get to the promised land? And basically, to get to the promised land, it was really a 3-day walk. Now, if you study deeper, you'll find out because they were so disobedient and because they were so hard-headed, God was weeding out that generation of hardheads. He didn't want to kill them. He just wanted them to die naturally. So he's weeding out. That's why it was 40 years. 40 years to get to a place that took 3 days, 3 or 4 days. 40 years they were in the wilderness. But 40 years they ate this manna from heaven. And it kept them healthy. But he had to weed out that generation that was hard-headed. Because obviously you can see for yourself how hard-headed they were. They were consistently complaining. What about this? 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 And the entire assembly of the sons of Israel proceeded to depart from the wilderness of sin by stages, which they took according to the order of Jehovah, and went camping at Rephidim. But there was no water for the people to drink. And the people fell to quarreling with Moses and saying, give us water that we may drink. Moses said to them, why are you quarreling with me? Why do you keep putting Jehovah to the test? And the people went on thirsting there for water. And the people kept murmuring against Moses and saying, why is it that you have brought us up out of Egypt to put us and our sons and our livestock to death by thirst? Finally, Moses cried out to Jehovah, saying, what shall I do with these people? A little longer, and they will stone me. And Jehovah said to Moses, pass in front of the people and take with you some of the older men of Israel and your rod with which you struck the Nile River. Take it in your hand, and you must walk on. Look at, I am standing before you there on the rock of Horeb. And you must strike on the rock, and water must come out of it, and the people must drink it. Subsequently, Moses did so under the eyes of the older men of Israel. So he called the name of the place Massa, and Meribah, because of the quarreling of the sons of Israel, because of their putting Jehovah to the test, saying, is Jehovah in our midst or not? Man, oh man. And the Amalekites proceeded to come and fight against Israel on Rephidim. And at this Moses said to Joshua, choose men for us and go out, fight against the Amalekites tomorrow. Tomorrow I am stationing myself upon the top of the hill with the rod of the true God in my hand. Then Joshua did just as Moses had said to him, in order to fight against the Amalekites, and Moses and Aaron and Hur went up to the top of the hill. So this is when they're getting ready to go to the promised land. And they're getting in a fight with the Amalekites. And it occurred that as soon as Moses would lift his hand, the Israelites proved superior. But as soon as he would let down his hand, the Amalekites proved superior. And the hands of Moses were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat upon it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on this side and one on the other, that side, so that his hands held steadily until the sun set. Hence Joshua vanquished Amalekite and his people with the edge of the sword. So this is the thing. Moses obviously is getting older. Remember, he was called when he was 80 years old. So he's obviously getting older. And he said, okay, we're going to have to take this promised land, but we're going to have to fight the Amalekites. Take your strong men and set me up on the hill. So they made a chair for him, basically a stone chair. And every time he raised the rod that God had given him to split open the Red Sea, they would win. They'd be kicking butts. They'd win. But every time he let his hand down and put the rod down, they would lose. So what happened was they would hold his hand up because he was getting old and he was getting tired. So they would hold him hand up. And because they held his hand up, Aaron beat the Amalekites. They beat the Amalekites. Jehovah now said to Moses, write this as a memorial in the book and propound it in Joshua's ears. I shall completely wipe out the remembrance of the Amalekites from under the heavens. And Moses proceeded to build an altar and to call its name Jehovah Banisi, saying, because a hand is against the throne of Jah, Jehovah will have war with the Amalekites from generation to generation. Now Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, got to hear about all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, his people. How Jehovah had brought Israel out of Egypt. So Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' wife, after the sending of her away. And he and her 2 sons, the name of one of whom was Gershom, because he said, an alien resident, I have come to be in a foreign land. And the name of the other was Eliezer, because to quote him, the God of my father is my helper, and that he delivered me from Pharaoh's sword. So Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, and his sons and his wife came to Moses into the wilderness where he was camping at the mountain of the true God. Then he sent word to Moses, I, your father-in-law, Jethro, am come to you, and also your wife and her 2 sons with her. At once Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, and he proceeded to prostrate himself and to kiss him. And they each one began asking how the other was getting along after they went into the tent. And Moses went to relating to his father-in-law all that Jehovah had done to Pharaoh in Egypt on account of Israel and all the hardship that had befallen them in the way, and yet Jehovah was delivering them. Then Jethro felt glad over all the good that Jehovah had done for Israel, and that he had delivered them from the hand of Egypt. Now, I don't know if something's missing here or not, but so in all this time that Moses is delivering the Israelites from Egypt, and while he's walking in the wilderness for 40 years, he hasn't seen his wife and kids. That is amazing to me, because that's what it seems like. So Jethro, his son and his father-in-law, brings Moses' wife and kids to him because he had heard all the things that had happened. So apparently people knew what was going on. And when he got there, Moses, of course, greeted him with reverence by kissing him and prostrating in front of him. I guess that's what they did back then. And of course, Jethro did the same thing. And Moses went to relating to his father-in-law all that Jehovah had done to Pharaoh in Egypt on account of Israel and all the hardship that had befallen them in the way, and yet Jehovah was delivering them. Then Jethro felt glad over all the good that Jehovah had done for Israel, and that he had delivered them from the hand of Egypt. Consequently, Jethro said, "Blessed be Jehovah, who has delivered you from the hand of Egypt, from the hand of Pharaoh, and who has delivered the people from under the hand of Egypt." Now I do know that Jehovah is greater than all the other gods by reason of his affair and when they acted presumptuously against him. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering sacrifice for God, and Aaron and all the older men of Israel came to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before the true God. And it came about on the next day that Moses sat down as usual to serve as judge for the people. And the people kept standing before Moses from the morning till the evening. And Moses' father-in-law got to see all that he was doing for the people. So he said, "What kind of business is this that you are doing for the people? Why do you alone continue sitting and all the people continue taking their stand before you from morning till evening?" Then Moses said to his father-in-law, "Because the people keep coming to me to inquire of God. In the event that they have a case arise, it must come to me, and I must judge the people, the one party and the other. I must make known the decisions of the true God and his laws." At this, Moses' father-in-law said to him, "It is not good that way you are doing. You will surely wear yourself out." So Moses' father, God works in such ways that his father-in-law came because God was probably directing him, he didn't even know it, to give Moses a better way of doing the judging. And Moses' father-in-law said, "You will surely wear yourself out, you and both these people who are with you, because this business is too big a load for you. You're unable to do it by yourself. Now listen to my voice. I shall advise you, and God will prove to be with you. You yourself serve as representatives for the people before the true God, and you yourself must bring the cases to the true God. And you must warn them of what the regulations and the laws are, and you must make known to them the way in which they should walk in the work that they should do. But you yourself should to select out of all the people capable men, fearing God, trustworthy men, hating unjust profit, and you must set these over them as chiefs over thousands, and chiefs over hundreds, and chiefs over fifties, and chiefs over tens." So it makes sense. "And they must judge the people on every proper occasion. It must occur that every big case they will bring to you, but every small case they themselves will handle as judges. So make it lighter for yourself, and you must carry the load with you. If you do this very thing, and God has commanded you, you will then certainly be able to stand it. And besides this, people will all come to their own place in peace." Immediately Moses listened to the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he had said. And Moses proceeded to choose capable men out of Israel and to give them positions as heads over the people, as chiefs of thousands, chiefs of hundreds, chiefs of fifties, chiefs of tens. And they judged people on every proper occasion, a hard case that would bring to Moses, but every small case they themselves would handle as judges. After that, Moses saw his father-in-law off, and he went his way to his land. So the father-in-law came with a good suggestion. You can't do all of this by yourself. Break it out into sections. Get the most trustworthy, God-fearing men that is not all about profit. You don't just want to make money, and let them be over. Some be over 1,000, some be over 500, some be over 100, some be over 50, some be over 10, and then the hard cases come to you. Let them resolve the soft ones, but the ones that are hard come to you. And Moses listened. And after the sons of Israel came out of the land of Egypt, on the same day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. And they proceeded to pull away from Rephidim, and to come into the wilderness of Sinai, and to encamp in the wilderness. And Israel went camping there in front of the mountain. And Moses went up to the true God, and Jehovah began to call to him out of the mountain, saying, "This is what you are to say to the house of Jacob, and to tell the sons of Israel, you yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians, that I might carry you on wings of eagles, and bring you to myself. And now if you will strictly obey my voice and will indeed keep my covenant, then you will certainly become my special property out of all other peoples, because the whole earth belongs to me. And you yourselves will become to me a kingdom of priest, and a holy nation. These are the words that you are to say to the sons of Israel. A holy nation and a kingdom of priests. Think about that. God said the Hebrews, Israelites, will become a holy nation. A holy nation. A kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you'd say to the sons of Israel. So Moses came and called the older men of the people and set before them all these words that Jehovah had commanded him. After that, all the peoples answered unanimously and said, all that Jehovah has spoken, we are willing to do. Immediately Moses took back the words of the people to Jehovah. At this, Jehovah said to Moses, look, I am coming to you in a dark cloud, in order that the people may hear when I speak with you, and that in you also they may put faith to time indefinite. Then Moses reported the words of the people to Jehovah. So God was making the Hebrews, the Israelites, a holy nation, not a state government nation, a holy nation, not a country, but a holy nation of people. I'm just saying, some people got this thing mixed up when they talk about nation. He's talking about a nation of people that are holy, not a state governed nation. That's not what he wanted them to be. He wanted them to be a holy nation of people and priests. So let's continue. You ponder on that. So Jehovah decides to come to them in a cloud. And Jehovah went on to say, Moses, go to the people, and you must sanctify them today and tomorrow. And they must wash their mantles, and they must prove ready for the third day, because on the third day Jehovah will come down before the eyes of all the people upon Mount Sinai, and you must set bounds for the people around about, saying, guard yourselves against going up into the mountain, and do not touch the edge of it. Anybody touching the mountain will positively be put to death. No hand is to touch him, because he will positively be stoned or will positively be shot through. Whether beast or man, he will not live. At the blowing of the ram's horn, they themselves may come up to the mountain. So Moses is telling the people, we're going to wash and keep ourselves clean for 3 days and wash our mantles. Fast for 3 days, keep everything clean. Because God is coming down from the mountain. And we're going to circle the mountain, but we can't touch the edge of the mountain, because if we do, we're going to die, because we're all sin. And sin and the holiness cannot live together. One has to die, and it has to be sin. So you're going to just stay your distance, and God is going to speak with us. And they must prove ready. And you must be bound for the people around about, saying, guard yourselves against, anybody touching the mountain will positively be put to death. No hand is to touch him, because he will positively be stoned or will positively be shot. So he said, men or beasts who touch the edge of the mountain when I'm down there, they're all going to die. Then Moses went down from the mountain to the people, and he set about sanctifying the people, and they engaged in washing their mantles. Accordingly he said to the people, get ready during the 3 days. Do not you men come near a woman. And on the third day, when it became morning, it came about that thunders and lightnings began occurring, and a heavy cloud upon the mountains, and a very loud sound of a horn, so that all the people who were in the camp began to tremble. Moses now brought the people out of the camp to meet the true God, and they went taking their stand at the base of the mountain. And Mount Sinai smoked all over, due to the fact that Jehovah came down upon it in fire. And his smoke kept ascending like the smoke of a kiln, and the whole mountain was trembling very much. When the sound of the horn became continually louder and louder, Moses began to speak, and the true God began to answer him with a voice. So he was in this cloud of smoke and fire. It was like an earthquake, thunder and lightning, cloud of smoke. Of course, you can't see the face of God, because you will definitely die. And they had to keep their distance from that mountain. And so Moses begins to talk to Jehovah. So those who came down upon the mountain, and Jehovah now said to Moses, go down, warn the people that they do not try to break through to Jehovah to take a look, and many of them have to fall. Many of them have to fall. And let the priests also who regularly come near to Jehovah sanctify themselves, that Jehovah may not break out upon them. At this Moses said to Jehovah, the people are not able to come up to the Mount Sinai because you yourself have already warned us, saying set bounds for the mountain and make it sacred. However, Jehovah said to him, go, descend, and you must come up, you and Aaron with you. But let not the priests and the people break through to come up to Jehovah, that he may not break out upon them. Accordingly, Moses descended the people and told them. And God proceeded to speak all these words, saying, I am Jehovah your God, who has brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slaves. You must not have any other gods against my face. You must not make yourselves a carved image or a form like anything that is in the heavens above, or that is on the earth underneath, or that is in the waters under the earth. You must not bow down to them, nor be induced to serve them, because I, Jehovah, your God, am a God exacting exclusive devotion, bringing punishment for the error of fathers upon sons, upon the third generation, upon the fourth generation, in the case of those who hate me, but exercising loving kindness toward the 1000th generation, in the case of those who love me and keep my commandment. You must not take up the name of Jehovah your God in a worthless way, for Jehovah will not leave the one unpunished who takes up his name in a worthless way. Remembering the Sabbath day to keep holy and sacred. You are to render service, and you must do all your work 6 days. But the seventh day is a Sabbath day. Jehovah your God, you must not do any work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, or your slave man, nor your slave girl, nor your domestic animal, nor your alien resident is inside your gates. For in 6 days Jehovah made the heavens and the earth, the sea and everything that is in them. And he proceeded to rest on the seventh day. That is why Jehovah blessed the seventh day and proceeded to make it sacred. Now, he talks about, he's basically giving them the 10 Commandments, right? Now, I have to say that when he talks about nor your slave girl or slave man, I'm not sure that's exactly what it was saying. Because it doesn't make sense to bring people out of slavery and then they put other people in slavery. Now this is me, this is my opinion. I think that might have been changed during the time of Constantinople, when all the scholars came together and they decided to fix the Bible up in a way that it could be read by people in English. And I believe that may not have been what it really meant. This is an international Bible, it's a New World Translation, but I find it hard to believe. And in my heart, that, that's why you have to read the Bible for yourself. And God is not a confusing God. He is not a God who's going to confuse you and take you back and forth, back and forth. It doesn't make sense to bring people out of slavery and then have them have slaves. I think that was put in for a purpose, for manly purpose. Bear in mind, men did interpret this. And there was 12 disciples, and we're not going to count the women that were disciples too. And there's so many religions based on what people interpret in their life, what their reality is. So I'm just trying to explain where I can't really get with. Because remember, there's 12 disciples, and we're not counting the women, because there were women disciples, but they weren't really noticed. And this is one of the Bibles. It's not the original Bible. The original Bible, the oldest Bible is the Ethiopian Bible, and it has 88 books. This only has 66. So I'm just saying, in my opinion, that part was something man wrote in there. Anyway, remember the Sabbath day to hold it sacred. You are to render service, and you must do all your work 6 days. The seventh day is a Sabbath, Jehovah your God. You must not do any work, you nor your sons or your daughters and girls, nor your domestic animal, nor your alien resident, who is inside your gates. For in 6 days Job came, and in the seventh day he rest, and it is sacred. Okay? So it is sacred. All right, all right. 20. Okay. Where we at here? All right, let's keep going. Let us listen, but let not God speak with us for fear we may die. So Moses said to the people, do not be afraid, because for the sake of putting you to the test, the true God has come, and in order that the fear of him may continue before your faces, that you may not sin. And he and the people kept standing at a distance, but Moses went near to the dark cloud mass where the true God was. And Jehovah went in to say to Moses, this is what you are to say to the sons of Israel. You yourselves have seen that it was from the heavens I spoke with you. You must not make along with me gods of silver, and you must not make gods of gold or for yourselves. An altar of ground you are to make for me, and you must sacrifice upon it your burnt offerings and your communion sacrifices, your flock and your herd. In every place where you shall cause my name to be remembered, I shall come to you and shall certainly bless you. And if you shall make an altar of stones for me, and you must not build them as hew stones, in the event that you do wield your chisel upon it, then you will profane it. And you must not go up by steps to my altar, that your private parts may not be exposed upon it. And these are the judicial decisions that you are to set before them. In case you should buy a Hebrew slave, he will be a slave 6 years, but in the seventh he will go out as one set free without charge. Now, God is giving them direction on buying a Hebrew slave, but think about it. That is not slavery if you're going to keep them for 6 years. See, if you study the history of what was going on back then, when people borrowed money and couldn't pay back their money, they had to work it off. So that's not slavery. So I don't know why they put that word in there. I don't agree with that word. That's not slavery. So if you study the history, you'll find out that when people borrowed money from people and they couldn't pay it off, they would work, a few years until they paid off their loan or what they owed. It's the same thing happened to Moses when he wanted that first wife, and the father-in-law tricked him and gave him the wrong wife. He had to work another 7 years or 10 years to get the second wife. It's the same thing. That's not slavery as we know it, especially in America. That's not slavery. That is more or less paying off a debt. That's not slavery. That is not slavery. So I don't like that word, but I'm just explaining to you. He says that if you have somebody that is working for you, to pay off a debt, basically, you have to study the history. You don't have to listen to me and understand what I'm saying. Go back and study the history, and you'll find out that is bond servancy. That's being a bond servant, not a slave. Not slavery as we know it in America. So, that word is a strong word, and for us of color, it's not a good word. So I'm just telling you, you have to study the history. See, some people read the Bible and they take it verbatim without studying the history of what was going on at the time and how their customs really worked and how they were done. So if you don't totally dive deep into the Bible and study what was going on historically at the time, then you'll believe that they were supposed to be slaves, which is what they used to enslave black people in America for 400 years. And some more years of Jim Crow, right? And even now, systemic racism. So I want you to know that, when these evangelicals who believe that slavery is okay, it is wrong. It is not what God wanted to be, and this is written in a way that it says slavery is okay, and it's not. Slavery is not okay. And I'm just telling you, you got to study the historical facts of what was going on and how they did things back then. Why would you bring a people out of slavery so that they can enslave other people? Does that sound like something God would do? God is a decent and order person. He don't do things out of order. Why would I be in jail for no reason? And then I'm expounded, and they found out I'm not guilty, and they take me out of jail. And then I decide I'm going to go and help people who have been put in jail wrongly, right? Or get out of jail from something I didn't do wrong, and then do something wrong to go back in jail. It does not make sense. So I'm just letting you guys know, okay? All right. If he should come in by himself, he will go out. If he is in the owner of a wife, then his wife must go out with him. And if his master should give him a wife, and she does bear him sons or daughters, the wife and her children will become her masters, and he will go out by them himself. But if the slave should, see, I don't like the slave thing. If the slave should insistently say, I really love my master, my wife, and my sons, I do not want to go out as one set free, then his master must bring him near to the true God, and must bring him up against the door or the doorpost, and his master must pierce his ears through with an awl, and he must be his slave to time indefinitely. See that don't even make sense. Now bear in mind, this hits on a lot of things, because even back when people were free, when the Emancipation Proclamation supposedly freed black folks from slavery in America, some of the slaves didn't want to go. They wanted to stay there. Oh, stay with you, master. Because the mentality, the psychological, they had psychologically been destroyed, right? Now, they're saying here that if he's doing bond servants, and he's serving a certain amount of years to pay off his debt, the seventh year you should let him go. So maybe his debt is long, he served it to do, 10 years. But he says he's only supposed to do 6, and 7 years he's supposed to let go. But if he's gotten married and have kids, then, this master thing, they have to determine if he can take his wife and kids. Maybe he was there for 7 years and he met somebody and fell in love and got married and had kids. So this whole slavery thing, I really believe, was put in by the American people, especially to justify being enslaved. And like I said, if you study the history of historically what went on at that time, there was no slaves. Not in the sense of the way we know slavery. There was no slaves. There were bond servants where people would go and pay off their debt. They weren't slaves. Okay? So this kind of, it kind of messes me up, because people read this stuff and they believe this stuff, and they'll come to you, and even other religions will come to you, well, there's slavery in the Bible. What do you say about that? And you have to set them down, and you have to really know, and not just study the Bible, but you have to study the historical facts of what was going on at that time. And see, I tell you all the time, I want you to be able to defend what you believe in. You got to be able to defend what you believe in. And people will ask you, a Muslim person will ask you, sometimes other people who believe in other certain religions will ask you. Evangelicals believe in this slavery thing that it was supposed to be. And you gotta break down to no. It's not slavery like you have written it to be. It is bond servancy, where they're paying back a loan or whatever. They borrowed money and couldn't pay it back, so they had to work it off. Because that's the way it really was. It was not slavery. I know you feel like, oh, you're getting a little bit too radical about this, but I'm just telling you the truth. So for those of you out there who listen to this Bible study, this is known fact. Go and research it yourself. But know that there was no slavery. He's not going to bring people out of slavery so that they can enslave other people. Come on. That sounds like a righteous God? It's not a righteous God. Anyway. All right. Let's continue. I'm going to pass all that slavery stuff and go to 21:12. One who strikes a man so that he actually dies is to be put to death without fail. But where one does not lie in wait, and the true God lets it occur at his hand, then I must fix for you a place where he can flee. And in case a man becomes heated against his fellow to the point of killing him with craftiness, you are to take him even from being at my altar to die. And one who strikes his father and his mother is to be put to death without fail. Wow. Strikes his father, must put to death without fail. Now this is stuff that they did back then, but if you study the history of it, it wasn't as severe as it sounds. But it's like God is setting up laws on how to live and what you should and shouldn't do. Thou shalt not murder, what time is it? How much time I got? 5 minutes? Thou shalt not murder. So he's going through all these laws that he's given Moses for the people to live a righteous life. He talks about kidnapping. One who caused evil upon his father and his mother is to be put to death without fail. And in case men should get into a quarrel, and one does strike his fellow with a stone or a hoe, he does not die, but must keep to his bed. If he gets up and does walk about out of the doors upon some support of his, then the one who struck him must be free from punishment. He will make compensation only for the time lost from the one's work until he gets him completely healed. And in case a man strikes his slave man, say, I'm not going to go into that, or a slave girl with a stick, and he that actually dies under his hand, that one is to be avenged without fail. However, if he lingers for a day or two, he is not to be avenged because he is his money. Now, you don't think that sounds like a man wrote that? He is his money? Because you know what slavery was like. Slavery was the backbone of America economically. Without slavery and the 200 and some odd 400 years of free labor, America would have never became an economic powerhouse. Not only did they work us, our ancestors, to the bone, they stole our inventions. They stole everything that we thought of. And when we did get out of slavery and we did become very, very productive, they came and destroyed it out of jealousy. See, because we are a holy nation of people and priests. And God has blessed us to survive. Our true legacy is that we are resilient and creative. We have taken things that they've taken from us and we flip them around and turn them into prosperous things. Everybody wants to mimic us, but nobody wants to live as a black person. They don't want to be us. They'll steal our ideas. They'll steal our music. They'll steal the style of dress. They'll steal our dancing. Sometimes I see on this YouTube where there's Japanese people doing pop locking, something that black folks created in New York, and they have competitions, major competitions. They'll steal our music, our style, our dance, our inventions, but they don't want to be us. And you know why they don't want to be us? They don't want to be us. Yeah, you can leave it up. I'll put it down. Thank you. They don't want to be us because there's a stigma with being black. Now, Sunday I preached a word about studying monochromatic colors. And I'm going to say this again, and then we're going to quit, and then I'll see you next week. White deflects light and makes you believe that it is light. But the color white deflects it. It doesn't absorb it. It deflects it. It pushes it away. It makes you believe that it's light. The color black absorbs light. And I'm not going to explain that. I'm going to let you think on that. Black absorbs light. White deflects it. Black absorbs light. White deflects it. To be in God, you have to absorb his light in your life, in your heart, in your mind, in your soul. You have to absorb his light and let your light shine. You can't be deflecting God's light. If you deflect light, it means you don't want it. Get away from it. Push it away. You have to absorb it in your life and let it shine from the absorption of light of God in your life. And so that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. We have to absorb God in our life so that he becomes number one in our life. That we talk to him about everything we're going to do for ourselves, for our family, any decisions we're going to make for ourselves, for our family. Of course, after you ask God about it and he gives you an answer, you still got to talk to your wife. Yeah. And sometimes you have to talk to the whole family. I'm thinking about doing this. God said for me to do that. And maybe there's a different interpretation that they may get. And then you got to go back to God and say, well, that was a good interpretation my wife said, or my kids thought about. So let me know, God. Let me fast and tell me what you're thinking. Now, if God tells you to continue to do like he said, then you tell him, well, God told me to do this. So, if you have a good family, they're going to follow you. But you have to be a good man for them to follow you. They have to trust you and say, well, you know what? Dad has never done us wrong. You can't be a wretched, unrighteous man and say God told you to do something and expect your family to follow you. That ain't going to happen. That ain't going to happen. Don't get it twisted. You have to be a righteous man in everything you do. With your wife, with your family, at your job, with people you meet. You have to be a righteous man regardless. A true righteous man does the right thing when nobody's looking. Not just because somebody's looking. But when nobody's looking, and if you're confronted with a situation, one side is right and the other side is wrong, a true righteous man will choose the right side regardless. Nobody has to tell him, nobody has to be looking. He doesn't have to be showing off because it's in his mind, it's in his heart, it's in his soul to do the righteous thing. So we're going to stop right here. We'll be back next week and we will continue, and we're going to start at Exodus 23. And we're going to continue with our Bible study. And we are going to continue with our Bible study for this year, going through the whole Bible. Now, I'm reading a New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures, so it goes deep into like that slavery stuff, and I really have to explain it to you because I don't want you thinking that slavery is a righteous thing because it's in the Bible. I don't want you to think that. I really want you to study and defend your belief. Amen. See you next week. God bless. I'm Tony Porter. I'm Tony Wimbush. I'm the English-speaking pastor of Men and Women of Valor Pentecostal Church, located at 347 6th Avenue in Newark, New Jersey. God bless you next week.